Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
News stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
More politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheersings.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.
So anyway, this is a Friendly
It's
Argument.
about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not bad
10
for us.
minutes, yeah, like for an intro.
Intro tangent.
For the whatever Patreon equivalent subscribers who get to listen to the Raw podcast.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so this is a Friendly Argument, episode something or other. I am J. Andrew Bernard. You are Jeremy Jones. We were friends before. We'll probably be friends during, and hopefully we'll be friends after.
Always.
All right, so I believe that I actually chose the topic for our podcast, for our discussion
I'm excited.
today. Yeah, this is a rare thing of late.
We'll make it more of a thing.
We'll work on it. We'll
make it more of a thing.
So based on our, I don't know where this came from. We were walking back to my car, and I was like, all right, it's my turn. And I realized, like, we had talked about how the Republican Party had just decided not to have an agenda.
They didn't vote on a new agenda during the convention, which was historically has been a thing.
Yes. So they were
for both sides.
Yes. So instead they were just like, yeah, we're just going to do whatever Trump's going to do. Like, that's the agenda. So I was like, I don't actually know what Trump's official agenda is. Because, like, last time he blew through the whole thing in, like, the first, like, 2 to 4 months or something like that. So I'm like, I don't know. Apparently the wall's still being built, like, very quietly, according to the DHS secretary, but sure. So anywho, so I decided that what we'd do today, or what I pitched, was that we'd go through Trump's agenda and kind of just talk pros, cons, where we disagree, like whether this will be a good thing, where we agree that this might actually work. Yeah. I think that there will be a lot of, in general, we kind of agree like this would be a good thing, but it's like going to be more of like, how does this actually come about, with a few... I'm sure there's some caveats in there that are like, no, I hate this idea.
Yeah, and also, I want to take this opportunity to say, like, I've said it a million times. I listen to a lot of Jocko, podcasts.
Really,
he's great, and he talks about decentralized command and letting your subordinates take the lead sometimes. Within certain
reason,
within certain parameters.
If you read his next book or his other book, Dichotomies of Leadership, which is how to
that's my favorite. Yeah,
how to move between those two things. I need to finish that because I'm a great book starter and I'm a terrible book finisher.
That's the hard part. So what I'm saying is I don't have to be in love with. The plan doesn't have to have my stink on it. It doesn't have to have a dash D behind the name for me to get behind it. Because there's a lot of plans that could work. Yeah. And it's just a matter of, is it going in the right direction? Do we think net this is going to be a plus? And that's my thinking. So it doesn't, I try to be open is I guess what I'm saying. Yeah. Thanks, Jocko.
Yes. So, anywho, the new pitch going through Biden's, which, if we have time, we might want to try. However, I pulled up Biden's website, and he has all of the plans ever.
Yeah. Like, thanks, Elizabeth Warren.
So many. Yeah. It's funny because you said it.
I knew you were thinking. You were thinking it so loudly.
Like, it's like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie. That's this is probably an Ilhan Omar one right there. But
Joe Biden and the Arab American community, a plan for partnership. Well, they're Americans, so we got a power. Yep. They're our partners.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I misread that as like the Arab community, so I was taking it as a.
Could you put the arrow down? I don't need to see the the act.
Oh, that's how it.
Donation.
That's how it. I was trying to figure out how to make that go away. I don't want to donate. I just really don't want to donate, and I've not currently. So one of the first things for our listening and viewing audience that Jeremy and I did as a. It wasn't really a bonding moment so much as like you knew I would get a kick out of making you do it. Yeah. Was you had to get up at 5 every day for whatever reason. You decided. You wanted to get up at 5 for, I believe, for our listening audience, finger air quotes, executive time.
Yeah. to reestablish a good habit.
Yeah.
That I used to have that I fell out of.
So anyway, the punishment, if you didn't send me a picture with basically a clearly new picture of you with I think I said, was it 5:10 was the grace period?
Yeah, there was like a 5 to 10 minute grace
period with the microwave clock that I'm looking at right now in the background.
Sven, throw up a microwave clock there.
Exactly. You can throw some examples.
We get all the pictures
of Jeremy not looking like the nose up at Jeremy with a slightly different hat, like 3 hats and slightly different angles, looking not happy about life.
Yeah. That was
So anywho, the reason I brought this up was because the punishment was you had to donate. I think it was $5 a day,
$10,
$10 a day to the Re-elect Donald Trump campaign. If you didn't, I don't think you ever gave Trump, at least in the first round, you never gave Trump any money.
Nope.
And then I was supposed to do it again for you.
And then we
and then it was like COVID meant that I got lazy.
Yeah. And so that sort of fell off. I kept it up for a little bit, but I've been sort of, it's been a little lumpy.
Yeah. So random thought Andrew had. So as Jeremy knows, and our listening audience doesn't know / care, I'm getting married in 5 weeks. 3 weeks, 5 weeks.
So very excited.
7 times 5 is 30. Yes, so a little less than 5 weeks. And one of the many things I'm looking forward to in marriage is that I will no longer be a bachelor, which means that because I am living with someone at COVID, and I want Laura to like and respect me, it means that I have to be productive all the time. So I can't just let myself get distracted by video games or staring off into the clouds or reading a random book just because I want to, because it's like, oh no, I have to work to make us money,
right?
Yeah,
I have to provide.
I mean, she is also she will have a job at some point in the near future. Life circumstances, but it's like, yeah, I am looking I don't know why this came up, but I'm looking forward to this. Oh, I'm going to be super productive for the sole fact that there's somebody around who to watch me.
The accountability buddy.
Yes,
the accountability buddy.
I like that. I'm writing that down.
Well, so excited for you guys to get married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And couldn't be happier for you two as individuals and you two together. I will say that in just about every
it's because COVID lazy. That's how I got
COVID
there.
lazy.
Yep. Okay, sorry. Continue.
We got there.
Yeah.
When animals, particularly high functioning, when they get into relationships, stable situations, they do tend to laze. They do tend to gain weight. This is in orangutans. This is in humans.
I can see that.
So if you feel that, know that is natural. That is not Andrew being COVID lazy or whatever. I
suspect that will be a thing. Though this is a thing we have actually discussed in our relationship. I am in charge of getting us up to exercise. In the mornings. So between 6 and 9 is my responsibility for us to basically. We have to get up and exercise. We have to eat, and we have to do our read our Bibles. It's
nice.
My responsibility to make sure we do that. Yeah. So.
If I was to be in charge of that in my relationship, this would be riddled with gunshots, just bullet holes behind us.
Yeah,
because not a morning person.
Yeah, she has her headphones on, so she can't hear.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that may be best. That may be best.
So, yeah.
So diving in to the campaign,
Trump campaign,
champagne.
So I assume this will just kind of be up forever.
President Trump fighting for you.
Yes. So this is the second term on Trump's DonaldJTrump.com /media /Trump campaign Trump-campaign -announces -president-Trump's 2ND term agenda
Sven, throw that up above us or below us.
And thank you, Sven. All right, so I guess we'll just dive right into it. So the first category is jobs. I guess I'll just read through all the bullet points and then we'll talk about them each.
Yeah.
So the high-level bullet point is create 10 million new jobs in 10 months, create 1 million new small businesses, tax cuts to boost take-home pay and keep jobs in America, enact fair trade deals that protect American jobs, a, quote, made in America tax credits, expand opportunity zones, continue deregulatory agenda for energy independence. So how many jobs were created? It was 1.4 million jobs were created last month or last quarter. The jobs report just came out.
Right.
And I think it was last month,
I think they do it monthly.
I think it is monthly.
I think it's monthly.
So it's 1 million jobs per 10 months, which honestly, if
I don't see that as being a big ask.
No, because in California, I guess we should first say, I think we both agree that it would be a good goal to pursue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't think that that's a bad thing.
What I hear, so what they say, why Lincoln is widely considered the greatest president.
Yeah.
I don't know if you believe that. I won't.
He's always top 3.
He's in the conversation.
George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, and George Washington has the whole product of his time slave thing, and was a arguably okay general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Lincoln probably was our best president. Now that I've talked it out.
Yeah, and what they usually cite for why he was so great is he was so great for his time, and so where we're at is important to the potential of the president and sort of where we should be focused.
Yeah.
I think it would be, being the strongest country in the history of the world, woo, go America. Not fuck yeah. Not even best in the world now, best in the world ever.
Yep.
I think we should be thinking about 10 million higher paying jobs.
Yeah.
We should be because I think what particularly this some of the policies that we've seen in COVID have created lower paying jobs or actually created some underemployment situations. Yeah. I have been offered many opportunities to be underemployed.
Yeah.
And I decided against it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No. And I would like to see, based on the fact that that's not that I'm above it so much as it is, I feel like as a nation, where we're at, let's take that next step. That's my thing.
I see, and I like that idea. I don't think that this is what necessarily the Trump campaign is talking about, but I do like that idea.
Either. I would like
and
to
it's
see
one of
that.
those so Andrew just thinking out loud is how do we get there? And I think there's a lot of social and educational issues. Yeah, I think we're getting
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
You're good.
We'll make this. Try to make this.
You got the point.
We'll do the switch. I think that there's a lot of social and educational things in there that we kind of have to shift, and I don't know that that's necessarily a governmental thing that can happen so much as a social thing that can happen. The thought I had as you were talking is we kind of need a new frontier that we can all face. So you look at the history of America, our first colonization through, let's say, the early 1800s, 1850, right?
Yeah.
Our frontier was the literal frontier. There's all this space. There's some people living there who aren't maybe using it necessarily the best, but technically it's theirs. There's some conflict there, but effectively it was we're gonna go make the wilderness not the wilderness anymore. So that was the big American push. Yeah. At some point we should have a podcast about the whole Indian U.S. conflict, because that's I don't know that might be a special episode, because that's one of those things I just kind of want to talk out.
Yeah, maybe it's a series.
Because I feel the net benefits are really good, but that doesn't necessarily but that you can't still say what we did was great.
And that's why you got to say. That's why I always say net plus. Was it a net plus? Yeah, it probably was a net plus, but man, it's super high level.
Could we have at what
negatives.
Was there a way that we could have done this better?
Of course.
Because there were so I'm gonna tangent.
Please.
Yeah, Sven.
That's a tangent, baby.
Let's tangent. Let's go ahead and stop the recording.
Yeah,
and
that's a good call.
That's a good call.
Gwen and Sven are not real interns. They're just cartoon versions of Jeremy and Andrew in wigs. No fake interns were injured in the making of this video.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely
Anyway,
in.
Indians.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
So we were tangenting off of the campaigns into
Frontier.
possible
Frontiers.
other series.
Conversation.
Yeah,
because we were talking about like we need a new frontier, which we'll get back to. I want to get back.
America
to that.
needs a new.
America
frontier.
needs a new frontier. So anyway, the Indians. There's this weird dichotomy of some tribes were like, okay, our culture is going to die off, but this culture, for better or worse, that is invading us is, I'm going to say, objectively better in certain.
So they were more assimilatingly minded.
Yeah, there were tribes that assimilated. So like you get like Elizabeth Warren being not a good example because it's not true, but you have a lot of white people who are like I think if you look at like the Cherokee Nation, I think. Like, there's a lot of tribes, particularly up in, like, the Minnesota, Wisconsin area, where if you look at, like, their tribe photo album, it's, like, a bunch of white people. And it's because, all these tribes were basically like, all right, we're going to all move into town. We're going to, start going to church, take Christian names. And in 4 generations, we're going to intermarry. And in 4 generations, it's like, you'll have the Elizabeth Warren high cheekbones, and that's, like, about the extent.
Hysterical.
Yeah. When then there's other tribes who are like, nope, screw that. And those were the tribes that were killing other Indian tribes for the most part, I believe. But, yeah, neither here nor there. So anyway, frontiers.
It would be good to bring a Native American expert, like a college professor.
That would be good.
At one of we have a lot of universities.
I wonder if it's I'm sure we could find somebody who'd just be willing to talk at this point. And just be like, hey, walk us through this.
Yeah.
Like, good and... Well, I want to make sure it's somebody who's not who's willing to talk through like the good, the positive, and negatives about it.
Yeah, as much as balanced and as much of reporting. Just
yes.
reporting.
Like, we don't really want commentary because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, there were a lot of atrocities committed on both sides, but the end result was like super great for some people and not super great for others, which is kind of anyhow. Going back. Untangenting. Well, at least one level. We need a sound effect for that.
Back on there.
Yeah. Frontiers. America needs them. So original frontier was a literal frontier. Then you get to like the 1850s, and like the abolition movement kind of like the frontier was still there, but it was like getting more easily conquered. So you get the 1850s, and it's like the abolition was kind of the new frontier, where it's like, hey, we have this problem that a lot of people were like, hey, we got to get rid of this, but a lot of other people were like, no, I get rich as shit off of doing nothing. Like, no.
They're going to be reluctant to give that up.
Yeah. It's a good gig. I get why you wouldn't want to give that up, even
nice
though
work
it's
if you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes. So that was
all puns
very much intended. Yeah. So that was the next frontier. Then we kind of hit the Industrial Revolution. And so like we have the industrial frontier of like, oh my goodness, like particularly because like capitalism was already a thing, but you get into like the big corporation money capitalism. And then after that we get into then it kind of becomes
World War I, World War II,
where it's like the new frontier was globalism to a certain extent, or at least like. We hadn't quite hit the information age, but
it was probably an us versus them because because these were wars, and
but we were really isolationist. Like so, like as far as American frontiers, because at this point, I feel like it was more of a psychological frontier. And what were you concerned about at that point?
Maybe if we can expand frontier into like rallying point, like because World War I and World War II. I mean. One of my favorite things is the art, the propaganda art.
Those are so cool.
Oh,
I shouldn't I feel bad liking them sometimes, but they're just so cool.
But there's some of them that are really, really strong thoughts. Like just really like, hey, I'm going to give up
Rosie the Riveter.
Rosie the Riveter, sure, but even more like hey, give up a little so the guys on the front line can have enough. And like that to me is an American ideal.
Yeah.
It's not. We did that. America did that better than anybody else in the history. Just that being able to rally around these amazing ideas and just believe and push through, even when it was hard. And
because we're American,
and because we were American, or for whatever reason, but we did it, and we did it that way. And we need that rallying point. whatever it is.
So,
I think I come up with it. But yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew's story.
Yes.
Because propaganda
Yeah.
poster. So going to college, John Brown University in Siloam Springs, Arkansas.
That's where you went?
That's where I went for undergrad.
Oh, undergrad.
I did
okay,
a master's at the University
That's
of
okay.
Kansas
I always think
because
he
I
was a
porked
KU
in
guy.
both sides. KU grew up.
Yeah, I was going to say
like I was probably like hatched out of a marble egg from a Jayhawk or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, so undergrad I went to John Brown University.
Your avatar.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah. Like I always
cracking it on the side of a pan and she's jumping out with the hat on.
Exactly. Well, see, it's not. It's so the fun thing was it's not the John Brown everyone thinks of like the Kansas mural with a Bible in one hand and a rifle in the other, which I learned was a brown Bible or shoot, I forgot the name. But there's like something called somebody's name Bible, right? Mm. And like I always thought it was like, oh, it's just like somebody's like translation of the Bible. No, it was literally a pastor would hand out a Bible and a rifle, like a repeating rifle, and during the bloody Kansas era, because it was like, nah, go shoot those Missourians who are coming over to vote for slavery, because that's where I'm from. Anywho,
I mean, like. I part of me really appreciates hearing those stories because it makes me feel like we have come a long way.
Mm-hmm. But it was one of those things where it's like Kansas just literally started the Civil War early. Like our birth, like the birthing of our statehood, is literally a bunch of people who are like, no, we don't want more slavery, so we're going to go settle Kansas because it's going to become a territory, and then a bunch of people from the South realizing, oh shit. They're going to vote for it to be a free state, which will start curtailing.
Kansas was the beginning of the Missouri Compromise, right?
Yeah,
is that
it was the Missouri-Nebraska Act or the Kansas-Nebraska Act. I forget what.
I don't remember.
It's something in the Nebraska Act is kind of like where that comes in. But they decided that they were going to let the Kansas Territory decide which one they were going to be, so it was going to be a vote. And so the way I understand it is mostly it was a bunch of people who were abolitionist anyway were living there, and then basically all the abolitionists from like Pennsylvania and like all of like really Quakery like places where the abolition movement was, they were like, oh no, hell no. And since they, I'm in my mind they're all Amish, which is not the case, but basically all these abolitionists were just like, nope, and moved to Kansas to stop it. But then like 10 years later, like as this was kind of starting, a bunch of Missourians were basically hopping the border to go vote so that they could be a slave state. And so then they're just...
For those political science students, that's called carpetbagging.
Yeah, I think carpetbagging was... carpetbagging became a term later, right?
I think so.
After, during Reconstruction. Anywho, so Missourians came over and basically it got dirty real fast. So like people are Quantrill came and burned the shit burned Lawrence down, which is why Topeka's the capital. Then John Brown showed up and started killing people with broadswords. Fun fact. Anyway, getting off I am tangenting off of I'm tangenting off an Andrew story. Gosh dang it, Sven, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. He's not.
Yeah, I'm not sorry at all.
Never has been.
Never have been.
Not for
tangenting.
Anyway,
Andrew's story about
not
propaganda.
For Kansas tangent.
Not for Kansas tangent.
Yeah.
I will never apologize.
You will never apologize for Kansas.
The great state of Kansas. May she ever. We don't have a good salute, but I'll just say ad astra per astra.
What the hell does that mean?
That is our state motto. It is Latin for through the stars through difficulty. Because there's no lights most of the time, so you can usually see all of them. Anywho, John Brown. Oh, so it's John Brown, different John Brown, not Bible and rifle John Brown, like evangelical or like preacher John Brown. So I'm at this. I'm there for 4 years, and I played on an intramural football team 4 years straight with like the same group of guys. Like we recruit people as we went, basically from our suite of rooms in the all-guy dorm that we only lived in freshman year. But like those are the only people we recruit to this team. Was people who lived in that. So our first year we were temporarily out of service because the team name was temporarily out of service because that was what we could find at the Walmart as far as like funny t-shirts went. So we found a bunch of those in different sizes. So that's what we were. But the next year we were and this is bad because I don't actually speak German well, is Die verrückten Horchen, which means the crazy little squirrels.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. So the first 2 years, we just had this like little bug-eyed squirrel that was like holding a nut and was like,
Little
yeah,
nervous little squirrel.
nervous little squirrel. But our 4th year, we had a guy who was a graphic design major, and he's like, "Oh, well, what do you guys want? Like, I'm on the team. Let's make this cool." Particularly because it was like, it was like our senior year, and so we're like, we found a bunch of propaganda posters, and so we have like, I can't remember. I think it was a communist. I'm gonna hope that it was a communist propaganda poster and not a Nazi propaganda poster. But he basically,
let's hope.
yeah. But it was one of those like, it's very martial. But it was like, so it's basically this little squirrel holding a football like in the Heisman pose, standing up straight with his arm completely outstretched in like the stop motion.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of little with a G-man, or not G-man, GI hat, like helmet on, and then like a row of smaller ones underneath him, and the little flying squirrels in the background. I think it was a communist one. It was the Stalin, because it was Stalin doing that.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So yeah. So anyway,
That's awesome.
that is a fun one. Sven will
With
put
the
a graphic up there of that
with the squirrels.
Yeah.
And the
So that was my touch with propaganda. Posters.
Yes, I love it.
All right. End of Andrew's story. Back to where we were. Frontiers, which
Frontiers would help us come up with these
better
new,
paying jobs, which is
paying jobs,
which is where we have an agreement.
Yeah,
I think yes.
10 million new jobs in 10 months. That sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds
well,
achievable.
Because you're starting to read Jordan Peterson more.
Yeah.
So one of the things he talks about is like we as a society need to figure out what to do with. And I don't think he means to get into the IQ debate because there's like a whole like kind of racist.
Yeah.
Some very racist people use IQ as like in bad ways.
Yep.
But there are people who have like very low, I think like 400 or lower IQs who are like, they just, there's
100
not.
or below.
Oh, is it 100? Okay.
Yeah, 100 is the average.
Okay. 100 is the average?
They move it, that 100 to always be average.
Oh, okay. So people
every year, yeah.
So people who are like 50 or below.
Very low. Yes,
the very low people. Yeah. Like it's like we have these people.
The
in
lovely
society.
Forrest Gumps.
Yeah, it's like we're always going to have them, but we need to find a way for them to be used. Like in order for them to be fully actualized as humans, we need to find ways for them to be useful to society.
Up to the potential.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And in a useful way.
Yeah. So and to extrapolate that farther to people who are like, who I don't want to denigrate them in any fashion, but people who are like their best life would be being a truck driver, right?
Yeah.
Like there's still some skill involved. There's still like stuff. There's like stuff you have to know. It's like I would say it's not working. You know, it's not mining or it's not nuclear physics, but there's still a skill set involved. And there's certain people who it's like that is what being a truck driver is what you were meant to be.
Right.
So but as truck driving becomes less and less profitable and may or may not actually just completely go away in the next 15 to 30 years, we need to start figuring out, it's like, okay, well, so people who fit that role, what can we use them for? And it's this, and I think where I'm trying to get to is like, there's this weird dichotomy of like, what's our obligation as a society to do that? And what is like, and how much of that is just market forces will figure out ways for those people to get there, even if there's like a lot of casualties in the interim.
Yeah.
But that's a bigger subject.
Yeah, I think that is one of the questions of our day, and I think particularly being as rich and awesome as America is, I think we have a high, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity. For those answers.
Yeah. So and this was
without getting too deep into it.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and do this just because it came to my mind, and I've had more vodka than I probably ought to have because I realized I haven't really eaten that much today. But
then we'll get you another. Which is usually how we do it here.
Yeah, exactly. Argument. Yeah, friendly argument is very close to just. Well, it's a bar. No, I actively encourage this to be. It is a conversation two guys should have at a bar. Yeah. Like, that is what we're striving for. Anywho, untangenting to retangent. Sorry, Sven.
He's not.
I'm not. I'm never sorry. Right. I'm never sorry.
It's the closest you will ever come to bullshitting is the apology you don't mean.
Yeah.
that is.
No, see, again, now we're tangenting off. But here's the thing. I can bullshit. Like, you don't believe I can bullshit? I think it's just my love of accuracy. like generally trumps it.
Oh, like
I can no, you know what it is I think of bullshitting as being snarky, but that's technically because I can snark with the best of them.
Sure. Oh, of course.
But I don't bullshit because at the end of the day, I like just gut level reactions. Like, no, that's inaccurate. We have to be accurate.
Yeah. It's a visceral response.
It's so bad.
It's
what was I gonna?
You squirm in your seat. Actively squirm in your seat.
So this was as we were talking about something, neurons fired. A conversation I was having with Laura, kind of about our whole cultural process is like, I'm kind of excited for America because we are like the first in a lot of things. We're like the older brother to the world. Like we're having all of these issues where it's like, because we've had so much massive success, and so it's like, how do we get past that? Yeah. Like we're so bored, like we're like the things we're fighting because there's nothing out there. We're just fighting with each other because it's like, you have nothing better to do, so you start like picking at a scab, right?
And the enemy is trying to incite those infights, and the enemy is multiple.
Yeah,
and we're taking the bait, hook, line, and sinker. And
because what else do we have to do?
That bums me out because there's plenty to do. But we need a
unified. I think this is the point I was trying to make earlier.
Yeah,
we need a unified frontier.
Yes,
again. I didn't finish the history. We'll move on. Frontiers. Maybe that'll be a graphic at some point if Sven reminds me. Sven, we need you to exist at some point. So anyway, so I was talking to Laura about like how like this cultural moment. It was like we're really the first country where we're not a genetic country, right? So like almost every other. I'll go as far as to say every other country in the world is a majority of something, the historical country, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll have some minority populations that might have been there forever, but like they won't, like the Coptic Christians in Egypt, like they've been there forever, but they've always been like at most 10% of the population.
Yeah, right.
So it's like enough that they can survive in this area, but they're never going to be like, and this is a new thing. Right. So we're the first country where it's like, hey, as long as you, like, here's our baseline ideals that we think are really, really great, and as long as you adhere to these, we don't care about any of the other stuff. So particularly in the Reformed Church, or the Reformed Evangelical Church, we've had this conversation on a different podcast, but one of the things they tend to talk about is within the church, or at least within doctrine, is there are closed-handed issues and there's open-handed issues.
Oh, interesting.
So closed-handed issues are like
This is in the Reformed Church.
I would argue this is like in a lot of churches, but this particular expression of the idea is very much in the Reformed Evangelical Church, particularly within what's called the Acts 29 network.
Interesting. Okay. See, because I can associate that with something else, but I want to hear what you have.
So, but the principle is like there's the close-handed issues are like, these are the things that it's like baseline, you have to believe this in order to be a Christian. So it's like Jesus was raised from the dead, like Jesus is divine, Jesus was also completely man.
The Nicene Creed.
The Nicene Creed is basically like the close-handed.
Yeah.
There's variations of that are still like would be acceptable within close-handed, but generally the Nicene Creed would probably encompass all the close-handed issues. Then there's open-handed issues, and that would be stuff like, do you need to be baptized again, like as an adult, in order for it to count, or is it, you're baptized once and you're fine, or do you need to have communion every single time, you guys, like every single church service, or is it okay like we do it once a month? These are things where it's like, you're still within the body, but we can have some disagreement on this.
Sure.
So I think it would be very useful as a culture in America to establish what are the close-handed issues. Like, here are the things that, like, we don't argue about. This is how we operate.
This is going to be our 2021, our first 2021 is going to be...
What are the close-handed issues?
Okay,
interesting. I'll need you to finish reading the Ben Shapiro book, because I know that like a lot of what I'll talk about is probably going to be
I will
better said in there.
I'll make that
for those of you just listening, I am referencing Ben Shapiro's latest book, How to Destroy America in 3 Easy Steps.
Not my favorite title of all time, but I will read it.
Well, it's
a little on the sensational side for me, but...
Let's see. Yeah,
I don't think he's actually trying to do that. So there's a bit of a sarcastic tone.
He's arguing that there are other people who are trying to do that and how to prevent that doing it. He's not trying. He is trying to prevent the destruction of America. So he argued. His
putting his enemies in his words.
I don't even know that he would necessarily call them his
Or,
enemies,
yeah.
but the people he thinks are ideologically unhelpful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
That was a tangent of something. I feel like I made the point. Close-handed issues. Talking to Laura. Oh, because America, I feel like because we're the oldest child, if we can figure out how to do all of these things, then other countries can eventually be like, okay, well, America's figured this out. How did they do it?
Yes. And I love the big brother analogy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an eldest brother, so
As am I. So
you're the oldest.
I am the oldest.
Oh,
of 3.
I didn't realize you were.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I genuinely think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because in fact we are one of the youngest
Mm-hmm.
countries, and we're the youngest. So we're really, historically speaking, a bit more than a bit of an upstart.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see us transition. It's sort of that like founding CEO to runs the ship CEO once you're big. We need to kind of make
the post IPO CEO.
Exactly. We kind of need to make that transition, because the things that made us that rough and tumble cowboy, go at my own way rogue sort of thing is really fun for a movie and got us to where we are today. But I don't know if that's going to serve us best.
See,
as being that good big brother.
I would argue that it still is, because I think that that's how everyone should operate to a certain extent. But this might be something we talk about in 2021, because I'm such an individualist that I think that is what creates the most healthy society.
Good teams.
Yeah, but anyway, to your point though, I would maybe suggest that we are in fact the oldest brother. Because if you look at
a lot of ways, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because if you look at like modern, the way most countries like that are considered to be first world are set up, with the exception of maybe China, it is very much they model
Americanized.
It off of us.
Yeah,
it's very much an Americanized. Like, this is how we operate, and like almost everybody that has any kind of level of success is like modeling us to a certain degree.
Right, and the political science debate was, are they modeling us because it is right or because it is the most financially expedient for them? You know what I mean? And so and this is an ongoing debate, and there's multiple facets to it. I'm not purporting one over the other. Yeah. But there's just multiple ways to look at it. But Americanization is without question the case.
Yeah. Jeremy, we are a show of tangents, because I just realized what we were supposed to be doing was going through Donald Trump's agenda points. We haven't gotten past one.
We haven't gotten past
we haven't passed
the first bullet in the first section. But this is the beauty of what we do.
All right, so should we just back all the way back up to bullet point number 2, or is there something else that we were better that we were talking about?
Let's take this opportunity to take a break.
Yep.
And then we will decide whether we want to. Maybe we touch the first bullet point on Joe's, and just we can talk about that.
I feel like maybe
minutes.
I feel like because there's so many on Joe's, it might be better for us to do a little bit of like let's do that next week. That way, at least, if nothing else, we can both skim, and then we can be like, here's the top 5 things I thought were interesting. You can do the top 5 things you thought were interesting.
I think that would be helpful for the
just looks like I sincerely doubt any of these are going to not be anything other than massive documents.
Well, I would almost just look at. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not.
The
Joe Biden. So we're looking at the Joe Biden's his agendas for his presidency or his campaign, and they're not set up for what we're trying to do. No. They didn't think about us when they put this together.
They're very about not even political pundits, but just 2 random guys in Los Angeles.
Yeah, how dare
assholes.
But so it might even be better. There was a recent speech of his. Mm-hmm. I think it might be nice to do we'll watch that speech together, and then we can discuss
just that. Okay, yeah,
you know what I mean? Because that's a lot.
A monster.
Yeah, that might be too much for us to make bite size. So we're going to take a quick break.
Refill our drinks, and then figure out how we're gonna get through this, even if it's just popcorn.
Hell or high water.
Exactly.
That's
like,
a selling
I
point.
feel like if you voted for Trump last time, that's a much braver, or I feel like that's a much braver in some aspects vote than this time.
Yeah. If we could ever get the head of my political science department on, we had an awesome conversation. And it could be almost apolitical, just the weirdness of the 2016 election. I mean, there's never been an election like it.
Yeah.
There's never been an election like it. It is so fascinating, and I would love to...
Yeah. I was listening to, I don't know, this may be apropos of nothing, but I was reminded of it. I was listening to Ben Shapiro's Sunday special with Candace Owens. I think I've mentioned Candace Owens a couple times. She's a black conservative.
She did
speaker.
a thing with Jocko.
Yes. Yeah.
I
could see that because he's done some things for PragerU and her shows on Prager University.
He very rarely says anything political, even in those political settings. It's very much just about leadership.
Yeah. I figure I know in his Joe Rogan Tulsi Gabbard thing, I didn't listen to all of it, but I know that he talked about where his politics came down, and it was okay, it was a little more left than I was expecting him to be, but it was it makes sense.
Yeah.
Or, independent would probably be the better way of saying it than left.
Very, very much in line with your individual freedom.
Yeah.
That I think those might have been the first words that he said about his political...
If we could just have a functioning libertarian party, that would be amazing, but...
I think we can, but I think it's got to be around discipline, not freedom.
Well, it's got to be around... It's got to be around, not discipline, I think it needs to be around duty... Freedom requires duty.
I could get behind that all day.
And I think the current Libertarian Party is more of the don't tread on me, period party.
Yeah.
Instead of the don't tread on me because I'm functioning, because you are an outsider and we have a functioning community without you telling us what to do.
And then the further bastardization of the word freedom is this hedonistic sort of no holds barred sort of thing.
It's
I can rape and pillage and do whatever.
It's the ability to do whatever you want instead of the opportunity to choose what you want, choose what to do.
And that duty or discipline, I think that's American. I think that's what makes America great.
I think you're going to be surprised when you read Shapiro's book how much you end up agreeing with him. I have a sneaking suspicion. I think there's probably going to be some things where you'll roll your eyes, but I think there's going to be a lot of okay, yeah, I get this. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a shot, and I wish I had a flight coming up. I would.
It took me a while, but that's because I realized unless I'm sitting down to read a book, it takes me forever to get through everything. Anyway, welcome back to Friendly Argument.
Hi guys.
We are going to. I think what we need to do now, because I want to get through this, and because we are a show of tangents, as most bar conversations are. I think we should just spend maybe a minute on each one of these bullet points, and we're just going to get through them.
Okay, I will try to keep us to a minute.
Okay, roughly a minute.
Okay,
we just can't tangent. We have to be good about tangenting. You're giving me a look, and I understand that.
Okay, as long as you know.
I understand that look. I realize that I am probably Sven. At some point, I need you to get a who's tangent more conversation.
We'll have a tangent counter.
Yeah. Yes. It'll just be a little
tick, 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 tick.
We'll restart every air quotes season.
Every season.
Yeah, every time we take an extended break, then it'll recount because I have a feeling I'll just keep lapping you. Anywho, jobs create. So we agreed.
We should move on to the next.
Well,
one,
I'm just gonna.
You're gonna summarize.
Summarize. Okay. Create 10 million jobs in 10 months. Neither of us think that that's that hard to do. In all likelihood, particularly because
coming off this low base.
Because COVID, we'll probably create 4 or 5 the moment COVID's officially over. Which Orange County, damn it, I'm tangenting. Orange County went to red today, which is stupid because purple should not be the top thing. Fuck you, Newsom.
Wait, what? Purple is the top
Purple's
color?
the worst color in our current COVID crisis because California is a terribly run state. It is. Don't argue with me.
You're silly.
I don't. It's we're not doing. We could be doing better.
Yeah.
How was that for finding common ground?
Great, beautiful. I was going to make a comment. It's like, no, I can't tangent us. That'll just spiral down. Create 1 million new small businesses. I like the idea. Also, don't think it's a big ask considering that I think a third of all restaurants have died.
Yeah.
In this current crisis, so just that market, that gap alone of people being oh, hey, that Mexican restaurant closed. We need another Mexican restaurant.
Right.
We'll gain some of those back. So
and I want to do it. Yes, to the businesses. Mm-hmm. Let's just do it in a healthy, organic way. I don't need to just pump them with steroids.
Yeah.
And now we got what I mean.
Tax. If we're using taxpayer dollars as venture capital, then I'm not happy.
Yeah,
the government has no business being in the private market. That's communism. Cut taxes to boost take-home pay and keep jobs in America. Like the general idea, would want to know how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't expect either of us to see Social Security at all, and so I would be okay if a lot of our entitlement programs we start tailing off because they were already Ponzi schemes. So let's just start closing the gap a little bit, and it's going to suck for us, but at least my kids won't have to pay for me, grandpa, and great grandma or great grandpa.
I think you and I both are on the same page generally on that. I think that our generation is not, and the generation behind us certainly is not.
Particularly,
so I think you're going to see
our COVID.
You're going to see some upheaval. Yeah. You're going to see some upheaval.
Whenever our credit bubble bursts, that's going to be a very interesting time in world life. I really hope we don't start a war just to get economics going up again.
China's bubble's worse.
Yeah, well, that's true. Enact fair trade deals that protect American jobs.
So there again, it's a how.
Yeah.
If these are macro issues, if you're trying to fight macro issues with micro moves, that's a losing battle.
Yeah.
I would rather see retraining.
Yeah, I'm not, because I feel like this is just,
these are good people. They're smart and they can do something.
Yes, but I feel like what this is really code for might be tariffs, and I'm not a huge fan of tariffs because at the end of the day, the only people they punish are your people. I kind of understand. I think it's help. I think our current tariffs with China are helping us force China to stop stealing our our intellectual property. I think that is helping a little bit. Maybe. Not my area of expertise.
Yeah, I think the NSA and the CIA would have different different feelings.
I already damn it. Okay. Andrew's story. I can't help myself.
That's another Sven.
I can't help myself.
That's another Sven.
So when I was at my master's program at the University of Kansas, I'm going to talk really fast to get through this.
No, I'm here. We're on energy drinks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm going to be hyped up. One of the classes I took was called Applied Portfolio Management. So we had a fund, and it wasn't a pretend fund. This was actual money that actual money that we had invested in I think 20 or 30 different companies. Just all over, and it was worth $2 million. Some guy back in the 90s had gone through the program and was really rich. And he's all right, I think this is a good thing for people to learn. So he put in just gave the university an endowment $200,000, and it's slowly grown up to $2 million.
Oh, that's super awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was a fascinating class. I loved it. I was not great at it because it required a lot more math, that I just didn't have as good of a grasp on. By the end, I felt better about it, but neither here nor there. But one of the things we had the previous versions of the class had invested in China, and there was a lot of stuff where we realized this may not even be a real company. We have $75,000 invested of real money in this company, and this could all be bullshit.
What?
The verification of their numbers, their financials, and by the way, the U.S. not awesome. Not awesome at financial statement verification.
Yeah, that's true.
Europe is also...
Well, we're both accountants, so we've seen behind the... Ooh, that should be another... That's a special podcast right there.
Overall, we should be doing more to mitigate positivity in financial statements in the
Yes.
U.S. and I think in Europe as well.
Yeah.
I don't know whose books I would trust better. They have different rules. But China's I don't trust. I couldn't invest in them.
So I can speak to this at least 5 years ago when I was really paying attention, being a CPA. Like for our listening audience, I don't know if I probably have mentioned this. I am a certified public accountant, and so there was a.
I'm inactive.
Yeah. Did you? You didn't do the year of training though, right?
Year of training?
You have to be an
I've
apprentice.
I've had multiple years of.
But did you But you have to do it under somebody. Like, did you?
So for
my
public accounting, yeah,
Okay.
back in Chicago.
Okay, so you did actually get an active license then.
Yeah, it was. I had years of experience that they accepted
As that.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
But it was
God,
previous
CPA
experience.
CPE is such a pain in the ass. I've got to get all of my 50 hours in the next month. Sorry, Sven.
That's another one. We're going to count that.
Yeah, it counts. I was telling a story. We had a bunch of money. We didn't we had a bunch of stuff in China, and it was like, oh, one of the companies like this may not be a real company, and I think there was another company where like, I think they're just stealing stuff from stealing an idea. But yeah, no, the main one we were looking at was like, it was like blood feed like you save the umbilical cord to use
cells?
So it was like it was stem cells, but it wasn't stem cells, and it was like one of those things like they just stored in case you needed it for these 4 procedures, and it was like ew. Highly profitable if it was real, but anyway, backing up, fair trade, tariffs generally hurt the people in the country. Maybe China's working. Anyway, moving on. Made in America tax credits.
It's so a lot of these you're talking about. I mean, I worked in the tax library at my college. It is a floor.
I started
the tax
out
code,
in taxes. Yeah.
Yeah. The tax code is it's a floor of a library. So it's constantly changing. That was a big part of my job. I would just come in and I would take out page 1 through 150, and then you substitute the new page 1.
Each year the code is something like tens of thousands of pages, I think.
It was a floor.
Yeah. But I mean, I assume that floor was multiple years, right?
Maybe. I mean, there was more than just the code there, but
But yeah, in tax law, and it's you can
more than I would have thought.
Yeah, it's stupid.
So talking about
put this down as maybe a future episode is different tax policies.
Yeah,
I'm a flat taxer.
You know better than that.
I don't care. I think that you can argue all you want but I think that it is the best system.
Okay, I mean so in tax there's 5 different ways to judge a good tax.
Yes.
Simplicity is one of them. Flat tax nails that.
Yes.
But there's 4 other ones. So
what are the other 4?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
You just said 5, and there's I don't know. It's flat, progressive.
No, those are types. These are ways to judge a good tax. Is it simple to implement? Mm-hmm. Is it equitable? Mm-hmm. Does it benefit the society? All these different ways, and so there's different ways to judge if it is a good tax. Mm-hmm. Either way, when we start talking about made in America tax credits, how you implement that is
and it's and how many companies. It's because I think the goal here, what I'm guessing,
I would rather them repatriate all the money from Apple and all these things that are sitting.
I think that this is code for get manufacturing back into America.
I don't know if we can do that.
I don't know that we actually want to do that at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think some of our vital stuff. No, it's not that we need to get it back in America. We just need it to not all be in China. We need to diversify where our manufacturing is.
Yeah, I mean, we're I think, and this is, I'm not a macroeconomic economist, but we're again in uncharted territory. Mm-hmm. Usually it was spaced out where things were made and where it's transported, and then these
China,
people did all these.
Spent decades focused on we are going to be the manufacturing.
We are going to be the manufacturing for the world, and
particularly I think there's only 3 provinces have most of it.
Is that right? Probably
so.
the eastern provinces.
Go in, check us out.
Yeah, I don't know about that at all, but
Yeah.
it very well could be.
it's like there's
but
three
also like
provinces
3
that
provinces
must have
there
been.
that could be like 3 United States.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like,
geographically.
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, it's because there's 1 billion people in China, so it's probably
1.7.
What, 1.7? Okay,
Billion.
so yeah, they could easily have a United States worth of people living there. So, that's so many.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a big market, and we want to be. At the end of the day, like they're our biggest competitor, but we also
They're our biggest market.
we need to be friends.
Yeah.
We need to be friends, and I don't know. These you said the tariffs. You think net they're a plus?
No, I think they're a net negative.
I would say they're a net.
I think they're a net negative, except for in a few certain areas, which is the reason why they're there. But it's kind of one of those like, well, how long do we do this, and do we have other means of doing that? Like, I don't like tariffs.
Here at the end of the day, I think we're more spoiled. The average American is more spoiled than the average Chinese person, and I think they can take more pain than we can. That's what I think.
I think that is correct.
And that means I think we'll lose any battle.
Very much
there.
agree with that. All right. Are you okay moving on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Expanded opportunity zones. I like the idea of it because I think if I remember right, opportunity zones are generally like in this particular like low income area, we're going to relieve a lot of tax burdens or do a lot of tax credits. So it's not actual money going in, but we're going to incentivize companies moving into places where they may not necessarily go. And if that's the case, I'm in favor of them because I think that more policing and better economic opportunities are what lead to stable communities.
For sure. I think my issue is the way that these are being sold to the business community is very much to that, BlackRock top, top 0.00001% of people that have gajillions of dollars to put into these things, and I would really like it. Like, it's unhealthy. The stratification that we have financially, socioeconomically in the United States right now is unhealthy for the union. It needs to be a little more balanced. I'm not saying I'm not saying we need. There's going to be wealthy people. Yeah. Like there's going to be ultra wealthy people. Yeah. But I think we need to just balance it out a little bit. I'm talking. If you're thinking 360 degrees, I'm talking like 4 degrees. Okay. Like very small changes, less than like right around 1% changes. To the thing because. Just for the health of the nation. I'm not trying to do it because I think rich people are bad or you know what I mean. Like I don't think that.
Yeah. See, I agree with you, and I think I don't want to tangent us because we're trying to go through these.
Yeah.
But I think there's some more things there. I think where we disagree on like where the actual problem would be because I agree with you on that. Like because equality of opportunity, not outcome, is always my goal. Like, let's figure out how, like, everybody at least gets as close as they can to the starting line as possible. Yes,
I think that is the absolute goal. Particularly in a perfect world, we are such a sophisticated economy. Our tax code is a floor in a library. Like, there's a lot of opportunities for people to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
And I would like to minimize that.
And
the way that these opportunity zones are being sold is not I'm not in love with. But I do like the idea of it.
And this may not be what you're talking about, but like at least what in my head the count I don't know if it's even a real counter or not, but it's like I'm thinking if they're being sold like the way I understand that you think that they're being sold, I'm kind of okay with if they're doing like a flagship business. So like if you have a mall, like any mall, they need to have like 2 to 3 flagship stores. Like you walk into, and this may not resonate with our younger listeners who don't actually go to malls anymore because they're apparently dying. But back in the 80s and 90s when we were growing up, every mall needed to have
mall rat generation.
Yeah. You needed to have a Dillard's, Macy's, and Sears. I think were usually the big 3. And those were they were always, in my experience, they were always like the end of the hallways.
Yeah.
Right? And those were the flagship stores. And so people would go to there because it's like, oh, I need to go to Sears to buy like a lawnmower or whatever it was that Sears was selling. But then you'd also go to like LL Bean or the popcorn thing. It's like these other stores were like open.
Cinnabon.
Cinnabon, yeah. Well, we didn't have a Cinnabon, and that always made me mad. So I always had to wait till we went to like the Phoenix airport as like a transfer in order for me to get Cinnabons growing up.
Oh,
like
really?
well into my 20s. The only time I got Cinnabons was really just as like we just didn't.
Not up on the
apparently,
Cinnabons.
we're just like Cinnabons. So
you're bad.
I know, but now MCI has
so
one in one terminal, so it's okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
whew.
exactly. Anywho,
And
so
I think we're gonna
I think that if it's one of those like, okay, we get one big business, like we get a Koch brothers or a BlackRock or something to come in, and like we got that one big factory there, but then we have like other little things that are kind of like maybe not necessarily are going for that particular business, but they're also getting in there. Then that's an okay, healthy.
And I don't know if those big companies need the opportunity zone tax breaks.
Oh, they probably don't, but they're going to take them because.
But I would,
how much of the stimulus money went to like corporations where it's like you should have cash on hand for 3 months, like.
And I think they did.
Yeah.
But this is the situation I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
Yep.
I think you can pay
corporatism,
the corporate tax rate.
Corporatism gets in the way of capitalism too many times in America.
That is a thought I have not heard before.
Mm-hmm.
But
because I think what a lot of people get mad about in the U.S. Sven tangent at capitalism is not actually capitalism; it's corporatism.
Interesting.
Because capitalism, at the end of the day, is you own your own labor. And so, it's very much about, like, private property, and, like, I own my labor, and I own my capital, right? Like, whoever invests the capital is the one who gets the most, because they're risking the most. Like, if an employee, it's like, at the end of the day, all I've really risked is my time doing this one particular job, and I get X amount of money, right?
Right.
But if I'm the person who provided the capital, it's like, not only have I risked all this time, but I've risked all of that time, and it may it may not even net to zero. It may net to negative.
Sure. I would like.
God, we are so bad. I am so bad. We are so bad.
No. I think this is a legit. This is a legit because that is an amazing splitting of a hair that like could be like a real breakthrough because our thinking might be very, very similar, but you put it in those terms.
Yeah. Well, Ben Shapiro put them in those terms, and I glommed
that's
onto
great.
it.
That's great.
I will cop. That's not an Andrewism. That is a Shapiroism.
All right. No, that's a very interesting idea. The corporatism getting in the way of capitalism, but I would say that the corporations who want more corporatism are stacking the federal and state policy deck against capitalism.
Yes, and this is where I would agree. It's because again
we would absolutely
because again it's kind of one of those like corporatism usually gets wrapped up into capitalism, but it's like at the end of the day when people are talking about capitalism as an idea, they're not talking about like what the reality on the ground is in America, because really what it is corporate, like what
that's
both sides would probably get really mad about is corporatism, because it's like capitalism isn't really the profit seeking thing. It's more of the idea. It is the idea that you own your labor, and that you have the right to your property, and that you have the ability to risk stuff in the market.
So I'm going to pose a question. You might have an answer. It might just be a thought, a thought-provoking question. Is it possible to, when we talk about risk, the capitalist risks their capital?
Yeah.
Is there a way? Would there be a way? Would you be interested in a way to where we value the percentage of the capital of that person's capital that they are investing into the business, valuing that versus biggest sheer dollar amount? So, for example, the Koch brothers have a lot more their 100% is bigger than my 100%.
Yeah.
But when I put my 100% into my family business,
gotcha.
Like they put in 1% and it way trumps my.
Are you asking socially or are you asking economically? I think we're both feeling at the edges of what your question actually is to a certain extent, and I don't know that I know the right question to ask.
Yeah, and so my thinking is these people that are going all in.
Mm-hmm. The small business, let's say small business versus Coke. Which, to be fair, I like the Koch brothers.
Kansas,
Kansas, and I listened to an audiobook on them, like their the family history biography thing, and it was like I was like, oh, I kind of just like who these people are. I think they go a little too hard into the.
It's a good idea taken too
libertarianism. I think there's some very, very good things that they do, but then they also have I forget what their freaking political foundation is. That's just it's like I like some of what you guys do, but then you guys just go too hard in other places.
Yeah.
I foundation maybe, I don't know. Sven.
They probably
sorry, no, that's not a Sven. I'm sorry, Sven. This time I really am sorry. That is a Gwyn thing. Gwyn, figure that out.
So. I think that there should. I think, in my mind, someone who goes all in like that, that's a much different game for them.
Yes.
Than the Warren Buffetts, than the Koch brothers, who can just
the titans of the industry.
They can just throw $1 billion here, $1 billion there.
Mm-hmm. See what sticks in.
That's not.
Well, they can Hollywood it. So it's like in Hollywood, because again, so for our listening audience, this is a very easy thing for us to discuss. Yeah. So in Hollywood, basically, one blockbuster will pay for all of the shitty other movies that came out that may or may not have hit. So I think at least it used to be every studio only really needed one blockbuster every other year or something like that in order to be profitable. So for Sony, they needed one Jumanji for all of the, who the fuck knows, to be honest.
However many movies they put out.
However many Sony put out. And but Jumanji was I think it made $1 billion odd or something like that. And then they made a sequel which made almost as much. And that's going to fund the rest, even if they lose have losers for the next 3 years, they're still in the black because they're just going to eat into Jumanji profits. Right.
And those little films are those, they can
yeah, it's
throw let's 10, 20, 50 million at something.
Yeah.
Whereas, that's a drop in the bucket for them. Whereas, oh my God, could you imagine if we had to take out $50 million to make a movie?
Well, I was about to say, if you and I were oh my gosh, we love it, not even oh my gosh, oh my God, we love this script. This has to get made. And you and I pool all of our net resources, and which in this case, it wouldn't even be our net resources, it would be your net resources, probably some of your dad's.
Yep.
My net resources, my fiance's life savings into getting the capital to make $100,000 movie.
Yep.
Still
micro.
We gotta pray that Netflix needs some fodder to and gives us $150K for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just think that there needs to be an acknowledgement of that.
Do you think that needs to be in the physical sense or in the social sense?
I've never seen it in the fiscal sense. I think in the social sense, we sort of...
Yeah. I think it would be hard to acknowledge in the fiscal sense because at least if you're going to be true to them without picking and choosing winners and losers, there's you have to let the market decide in the fiscal sense. But I think there would be some help. I think as a society, we would be better if we were oh my gosh, the small business. If that was the default.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it would look like. I don't know what it would look like, and I'm just saying that's different. It seems.
So we've got 58 seconds left.
So yeah,
I'm going to say
let's just pose that as a question.
Let's just pose that as a question. We'll table that. That'll probably keep coming up until we actually get a solid. Until we figure out some more parts of the elephants. Yeah. Elephant.
So we're going to take a quick break. So we were doing a terrible job of wrapping up. So what I think we should do...
we were talking about extended opportunity zones. We haven't gotten past jobs. All right, we're just going to... tell me what you think we should do, and then I'll tell you what I think we should do.
I think we should hit the headings and maybe one bullet point.
I think we should... So I think I'm going to see that, and I'm going to just say, let's just, real quick, no comments, yes, one comment each on each bullet point. Discipline. We can do it.
Okay.
We can do it. I have confidence in us. Okay. Continue the regulatory agenda for energy independence. Don't really care about the details. I like what this sounds like. I'm cool with it.
I care about the details. I'm curious to see how they do
I will
it.
caveat that with, I don't want people's rivers and water sources getting polluted, but for the most part, I am okay with, deregulation as much as, maybe not as much as possible, but chopping vast swaths away.
Having had to build in a highly regulated city of Chicago, I found that 95, maybe higher, the regulations were just protections for the homeowner, which I was building a house, and I agreed with it. But the 2 to 4% of it I didn't agree with was just super silly. But on that percentage,
CYA somewhere or a politician doing something. Nope, I shouldn't have done that. Nope. I'm sorry.
We'll move on.
Moving on. Eradicating COVID-19. Develop a vaccine by the end of 2020. Maybe doable. Probably. We'll see what happens.
It would be a record by 6 months.
Yeah. Return to normal in 2021. I think that's doable. Kind of based off of
so broad. I don't know how valuable those words are.
Fair enough. Yeah. Make all critical medicines and supplies for healthcare workers in the United States. I'm actually okay with this because I think we kind of got screwed by China at the beginning of this. So much has happened in the interim that you kind of forget there was a 3-week period where oh fuck, China's not only buying up everybody's stuff, but they're also just keeping all of it.
Yeah. Duh.
Great.
I'm trying to be. I'm not trying to be.
I'll take it. Yeah, no. I like that one. Refill stockpiles and prepare for future pandemics. I feel like your comment was probably the best response to that one as well. Let's actually have a fucking plan this time.
Yeah.
Here's our procedures.
Let's do a post-mortem on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And
let's look at H1N1. No, we just got lucky on that one. Never mind. Yeah, let's look at this one.
What's the one that you were really scared of?
Ebola.
Ebola
will fuck us over. If it becomes a pandemic, we're losing a third to half of our population.
So let's plan for an Ebola.
Yeah.
And
I feel like we should have 3 or 4 plans, but yeah, we should have
Sure. I'm just saying worst case scenario.
We don't know what this is. We do know what this is, and this is going to fuck us over.
Yeah.
And, a couple steps in between. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep. All right. End our reliance on China. Bring back 1 million manufacturing jobs from China. We've already talked. I think we've kind of already touched on this. I don't think we need to bring back the manufacturing jobs, as nice as that would be for some of our population. So much as I would be more interested in diversifying our manufacturing places. But I think the private sector is already going to do this. I don't see that there should be government intervention on this.
What are the most important industries for the next 100 years? That's what we should do.
God, do you think we could actually, as Americans, think in... China thinks in decades. If we, as Americans, think of the next 100, think in centuries, love it. Love it.
Woo-hoo! That's, yep. I'm trying to be brief, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Tax credit for companies to bring back jobs in China. We've kind of already talked about tax policy.
Look forward.
So, for our audio audience, I'm just giving the camera a bird. A flying bird. Good luck. Allow 100% expensing deductions for essential industries like pharmaceuticals and robotics who bring back their manufacturing to the United States. Oh, fuck that.
Come on.
No. That's government interventionism in, particular things. I can kind of get pharmaceuticals, but, robotics is going to replace workers and you want to bring back manufacturing. I don't know what the details on this, but, on its face, it seems stupid.
I just like there's a great opportunity though. Robotics requires a lot of mechanical knowledge.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
let's get those people that have some mechanical knowledge from more
like
yesterday's industries into
this
these
might be another something we touched on in another podcast that's more industry focused. Like I am always okay with, does this make net human life better? Like, is a robot doing the shitty job that used to be a human, turning one widget, like doing a half-quarter turn for 10 years?
Yeah.
Is there a robot that's doing that? Great. But, like, is robotics going to, like, I'm okay with automatizing as much as we possibly can if it makes human life better, but at the same time, like,
there's going to be winners and losers, and you want to handle those losers.
Yes. Which I don't think is the government's responsibility. I think that's a societal responsibility.
Us equals society equals government.
No. I disagree with that, but that's okay.
You get the government you allow.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the government's responsibility. And I think we've had this conversation before, and we will probably have this conversation
and then
again.
I'll put... so all those equals, and then government equals Commonwealth.
I think there's a difference between what we're naturally choosing to do as a society because that's what we think is good, versus what we're told we have to do because the government is pointing the government gun at us.
I think that the fear of government, the word government, is taking us off of true north, and it's hurting us.
Okay. I feel like this is an area we should explore.
Yeah.
I feel like we have explored, and we will probably explore
This is
more.
Good, though.
But because
we are going to continue to explore it, so we get those breakthrough moments like that corporatism versus capitalism.
Since we're attempting, since we're attempting to be against our natural inclination
to tangent. Agreed. Let's continue.
Yeah. No, I have comments, but I'm not going to make them. All right. No federal contracts for companies who outsource to China. I'm okay with that just because I think that China is the biggest international issue at the moment. I don't think, like, in principle, I'm not necessarily particularly interested in it.
I'm fine with it. I think it's deck chairs.
Deck chairs?
Deck chairs on the Titanic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. That's fair.
You want to change where the deck chairs are on the Titanic?
Sure, whatever.
I guess.
Yeah. I guess for me it falls back into that, like, bring 1 million manufacturing jobs back from China. Don't care. Like, let's send it to Ecuador. Let's send it to Indonesia. Like, let's just not have it all in one country, so we don't get fucked because one country decides to fuck us.
Yeah.
Hold China fully accountable for allowing the virus to spread around the world. I'm on board.
How? I mean, you be through the international court that we're not a part of. Like, I don't.
Well, they own the World Health Organization. Like, it's just being like, hey, you guys fucked up. Like, they didn't tell the world this was a thing that was happening because they were embarrassed. Oversimplifying it by leaps and bounds. They were embarrassed about it. And so, like, if we would have known, like, 3 weeks ago, 90% of the cases wouldn't have happened.
We can discuss COVID response, post-mortem COVID response.
That might be, let's tag that for our 1 year anniversary of
there you go.
Launching. Like, okay, this is a thing.
March,
we're back to normal. Let's look at it now. And then we can look at it 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years because a friendly argument's going to be the next best thing ever.
Yeah.
It's like, you, Joe Rogan, we're coming for you.
Moving on.
Remind me let's talk about interviews after we
And I like
stop.
Joe Rogan a lot.
Yeah,
actually.
of course. Everything I've seen of Joe Rogan's been great.
I hope for you in the most friendliest way possible.
I hope that one day we're big enough that, like, Joe Rogan and we do each other's podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be the coolest.
Let's be honest. We just do his podcast because we talk about everything we wanted to talk about on his. No, ours would be more like this is the one specific subject, whereas, like, fuck, he's a tangenter too.
Oh, it would be the longest podcast in the history of podcasts.
It'd be like
it would.
It's like
the podcast that doesn't
he would get high, we would get drunk, and that's how. And it would be like 8 hours of us just shooting the shit.
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
It does. I'd be like, hey, you've got a gym here, right? Let's go bro out. Like, let's go work out real quick. Yeah.
Come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'd be all over that.
I mean, I would feel bad because you guys could probably out bench me like pretty seriously, but I'm okay because I have natural, like I just have like a natural floor that I don't go below, so I feel okay.
Yeah. You are built for bench press.
I'm built for all of the weightlifting. Running, which is what I really like, I am not built for.
Yeah.
Damn it! No, I'm tangenting. Okay.
I know.
Healthcare. We got through two. We got through one.
Yeah. Yep.
Healthcare. Cut prescription drug prices. I want to know the details, but generally in favor of it.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Like, because like there's some R&D issues in there where it's like you got to reward it, but I feel like if there's international companies, like the American taxpayer, the American citizens should not be paying for the R&D for Europe.
Agreed.
For the rest of the world, but I don't know what the details are in here. Put patients and doctors back in charge of our healthcare system. Not knowing the details or really what that means and being 2.5 shakes to the wind, I like that idea. I don't know what the details are, so I'm a little hesitant to it. This might be we should start having like guest episodes, because this is one of those things, like my dad is intimate.
Oh,
like,
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that.
I would replace him. Oh, he's gonna be around. Maybe we should do an episode around my wedding. You can like talk to my dad for
That'd be super cool.
That would be, actually, that's a really good idea.
Let's do it.
Gwen, remind us.
Aha!
Also Sven. Lower healthcare insurance premiums. Don't know the details. I'm okay with it. In surprise billing, I don't know what... Oh, I assume that means in healthcare, so it's like, hey, we're also charging this. I feel like that's a loaded thing. I would want to know what they're talking about specifically and know what the details are on that before I really make a comment on it for positive or negative.
So, I think there are ways to do all these things.
Yeah.
And they aren't going to be popular.
Yeah. Oh, cover all pre-existing conditions. I don't like this one, if I'm honest, because there's a lot of them pre-existing conditions that are solely based on the fact that we are obese, or a person is obese, which there are very few conditions where like that is a life choice. And this is like, I'll be perfectly candid here. Like my BMI is such that I am classified as obese. So like,
well, yeah, but
like I mean, yeah. But I mean, like I'm also built in such a weird way that like that's gonna be a little weird. But it's like to a certain extent, in America at least, you can choose to be obese or not. There's a lot of other factors, but at the end of the day, you are making the choices there. And so like I don't like that, because Jeremy Jones, who has chosen to eat meals that have no more than 3 ingredients.
Yum, 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 yum.
If water counts, I can get under.
Okay. So my point is that Jeremy Jones, who is choosing all of the healthy life decisions, shouldn't pay for Andrew Bernard's energy drink addiction. I'm
okay with that. I'm okay
but that's your decision to be okay with.
Yeah. I think that what we can do is we can cover the pre-existing conditions and set things up in a way to making healthier choices advantageous to people.
Okay,
and that's what I would try to steer us more.
Yeah.
Again, I'm looking forward. I'm looking the next 100 years.
Yeah. Okay, I guess so. Like in the details, we could probably find some areas of agreement, because like if you've got a genetically bad, like if you're genetically predisposed to have a bad heart. That wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
Like, screw that. So I guess I'm caveating there.
Yeah,
but,
that's fine. And that would sort of be my overarching thing for all these healthcare things.
Oh.
Protect Social Security and Medicare. I agree with that.
And I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah, you were willing to give away your Social Security a little bit ago.
So like, social contract, like we've said, hey, you guys are getting this. We can't. That was made in an era where we were having more kids. It's a Ponzi scheme at the end of the day, and it is because it was when we were having more kids than we were having. Like everyone was having 2.5 children, And so it works because it's like we have more and more people feeding into whoever's currently there. It's like me paying in isn't paying for me, which is what they tell, like, which is what like the idea is. What we're doing is we're paying for my, well, I don't have any grandparents
Come to
anymore,
Grandma!
no, I have one. I have a terrible grandson. You're
fine, you're fine.
But like my pay.
They forget about you every once in a while too, so it's fine.
That's fair. Well, I'm not gonna unpack that box of worms or that can of worms. But it's like my money is really mostly going towards paying theirs, and it's flowing through. So it's like it's not the way we currently have our broad brush strokes entitlement system with quotes around that is not sustainable. And so like I understand like there is some good stuff, but I think that it is more on the individual to plan and prepare than it is for the government to be like, hey, this is a thing, we don't trust you, we're going to take this stuff so that you have it.
Yeah. I believe in America. I know empirically that we are the strongest, wealthiest nation in the history of the world.
Yep.
If anybody can do these things, we can. And I think that we. I would like to.
Yeah.
See us.
So I think this
honor
is
that,
and I think this is a place where we generally tend to we have amicable disagreement.
Yeah.
Is because I'm very much like there's slack here that needs to be picked up, and I think that you generally think like this is a place where the government should pick up because it's a corporate we that's picking it up, whereas I'm like, no, that needs to be a community charitable or like function or organ rather than it needs to be a government organ.
I think we will touch on the definitions of government later, but I define it as the Commonwealth. Yeah. And that is...
Which I don't think is necessarily... I don't find that particularly helpful, because whoever's in charge of the government...
Who gets what when?
Yeah, because they become the person who gets to control that, and that's not so much a we, so much as them. So it's like, what do they get to say?
And it... As I mean, think about it in like the most painful possible way. It is a we.
It is a we,
and that's terrible. And it hurts, and I hate that.
Yes, but so this is and I think this is a point. I feel like we've talked about this before, and we'll probably continue talking about it again.
So much condensation.
I'm more concerned about the. I hate being 3 shakes to the wind sometimes. I think I'm more concerned about the we.
You got about 2 seconds before we might have to touch because we want to get through the rest of this. We can come back to this.
Let's do it because I know I'll make this point better at some future point. But there's
we've talked about
we've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again. All right. Protect our veterans and provide world-class healthcare and services. I agree with this in general, but my solution is just to privatize it, which probably wouldn't work super well. I feel like this is a VA question.
Yeah, it fully is a VA, and I'm gonna tangent very quickly, but it is about because I'm 100% for this
tangent. I need that.
And,
I need that
and
Jeremy
just
bar
one
to go
tick.
up.
So my mom is who's more conservative leaning. We both did this website offered like. Balance the federal budget, which honestly is not that difficult. We both did it.
Yeah.
She is married to a highly decorated veteran, and Jeff, you're the man, genuinely, and thank you. She gets government money every month. She cut the military and Veterans Affairs far more than I did. Far more than I did. And I still balanced it. She balanced it. But I was like, you like cut to the bone on this thing that you're a part of. And there's ways to do it where we don't have to do it. And those folks, I hold in a probably slightly too high of esteem. But I absolutely want to protect
because
those.
you're a good American. Is the
I don't. I think that's what we do best. I think the military is what America. It's one of our absolute strengths.
So we're supposed to not be tangenting, but I'm okay with tangenting on this.
I feel like I stayed pretty in the pocket.
I think you did, but I'm going to actually agree with you on this because I think that our military, I would argue because our foundation, like who we are as a people, because we're a creedal people, that we have a very moral, and there will be a lot of people disagree with me on this, but we have a very moral, like our moral code is like just integral to who we are as a people. And so the fact that we have a military where it's like, we have to limit, like, I feel like we're the first ones who's like, we have to limit civilian casualties because they're civilians, not because it's like a PR, like, because it's easier to do it. We're just like, no, we're not going to, like, we're going to court-martial people who, like, napalmed a village in Vietnam. Yep. Like, that's not who we are. Like, we are easily the greatest military force in the entirety of human history, and we didn't go about like being like, all right, Canada, you're just going to become the next like 8 states,
right?
Like you're going to get a little bit of representation, but you're now a part. Like your shit is now our shit.
Yeah,
because we want to build an interstate to Alaska, and you've got a lot of oil.
Yep.
Like
yep.
Yeah. Anyway, in tangent. Education. Provide school choice for every child in America. I am super on board with that.
Woohoo! I think that is the shell around bad ideas.
Interesting. Let's tag that for a different one.
What Mike Pence did as governor of Indiana was a net minus.
Okay, we'll have to. I don't know enough.
In my view, yeah.
I don't know enough about that to have a cogent.
But we can. Yeah. Education would be an
yeah.
awesome
podcast. Teach American exceptionalism. I like this idea if because I think we are.
I wasn't laughing at you. I was just it was
like the fact that this is a thing. Like, but I think that is actually an important thing because I think we are in fact an exceptional people. If for no other reason that we are not not supposed to be a tribal people. I think that this is fine to teach as long as we teach like here's our ideals. And this is here's how we've always strived for them, and here's where we've royally f***ed it. Because we can't teach exceptionalism without looking at the places where we've drastically failed, like slavery, Jim Crow, the Indian
Do you think that's
genocide.
What they mean by that?
I think that's what some people in the Trump administration mean.
I in my heart of hearts, I hope that's true.
Yeah, I think that. If Trump were to be sat down and be somebody focused in on focus the conversation in on that specific micro point, he would probably agree with it. But if you just told him that, then broad statement that, he'd just go off wherever he want to go off.
Exceptionalism and nationalism are not American. They're not uniquely American things. Mm-hmm. So I want to teach uniquely American things. But I think that our ability to rally, that duty, that discipline, that I think is much more important. I think if the American exceptionalism was the Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. If that is what you're teaching, as long as you keep it in check, just there's a lot of potential.
Yes, I agree. I would agree with you. It needs to be defined. American exceptionalism needs to be very explicitly and very clearly defined. But I think that there are a lot of things that are very American. That it's this either comes directly from America, or it is uniquely American.
It's similar to speak to the kids, the Gen Zers and all that are watching this. I'm sure there's tons of you.
Yeah.
We
have great illustrations, so of course they're here.
It's similar to being woke. I don't like the term woke because it does have an exceptional sort of thing to it, but it's also a past tense. In my view, one can never be fully woke. You have to constantly be working on awakening.
Yeah.
And
I disagree with the whole theology behind, I'm okay with defining this theology behind that.
Yeah.
But I understand what you mean.
And so I don't like the way I think it's that more harmful.
But I think it's a
positive.
good thing. I think it's a good thing to be like, here's where you come from. This is your tradition. Continue this tradition. Like, here's all the good things. Here's where we like. Here's the ideal. This is the ideal that you should strive for, because this is who we are as America, right? Here's where we fucked it up. Don't fuck it up in that way. Try to get more close to this ideal. And I think that's.
I mean, if that's what they mean by teach American exceptionalism.
Yeah. I don't.
The way that's worded, I don't get what you're saying from the way that's worded.
And this might be a political language barrier,
maybe,
because there's like, at least in conservatism, this has a very specific meaning.
That's great. We should. I'm putting exceptionalism.
Yeah.
But we should move on as well.
We should. Okay, this one I'm actually super in. So this is Drain the Swamp, which I will eye roll the overturn, but the first bullet point is pass congressional term limits. I am 100% for this. I'm actually okay with judicial term limits, with Supreme Court term limits as well.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think term limits are a issue with the electorate. You should
granted,
if the electorate was engaged and allowed to be engaged in the way that they, then we wouldn't need it.
Potential, yes, I agree with that. I think I agree with that. My gut level reaction to that is, because you don't have, it's very easy just for the party to throw money at the incumbent, because people will vote. Like, you can throw a little bit of money at the incumbent because people are like, I don't know who this guy is, I'm just voting for the same old person.
Right.
Like, because the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Whereas, like, congressional term limits, like, you don't get these people who are, like, you don't get the Mitch McConnells, you don't get the, I actually really like him, but Lindsey Graham's. You don't get the Bernie Sanders, you don't get the Joe Bidens. Like, you don't get these people who, like, you haven't done anything other than Washington politics for your whole career. Like, go out and live a different life. Like, you have great, like, the most you could get is, let's say, presidents.
You're doing a terrible job on your 60-second responses.
I am. Oh, well. Yeah, we knew what we knew what was going to happen.
We knew what this was. Because you got about 2 more minutes on this.
Well, you were supposed to police me, so...
There's that ownership. There's that extreme ownership.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad you're taking it when I pointed it out to you.
I know. That's on me, guys. That's on me. So continue.
Congressional term limit. So if the president can be 8 years, I think that representatives should be no more than, like, we'll say 24 years. That's...
Oh, wow. Those are pretty... Well, I won't say liberal term limits.
Yeah, but I mean, that's 3 times the amount of the president. Congress or senators should only be 16 years, right? Basically, it's the number of terms. So the president only gets 2. I think senators should get 3.
Senators are 6-year terms. So
yeah, I know. So like, I'm
3 terms.
It's 3 terms. 3 terms, 4 terms, because it's the more representative you get, the more power, concentrated power you have, the less terms you should have. Is my basic point. Okay. Yeah. All right. So trying to own what I have, we're going to keep moving. Unless you pass congressional term limits, do you give a damn one way or the other?
I think that we need to change a lot. We need to change how campaigns are funded and how districts are drawn well before we talk about term limits.
I think term limits get to what you want a little bit more, but that's an unpacking thing.
Electoral process makes your parties, and all of these things are based on the party. So we have 50 seconds. So we're going to take a quick break.
Let's take a quick break, and then we got farther than we were expecting to. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can't. I was like, maybe we can finish this up, but I think less of it, yeah. Anyway, so, Drain the Swamp. Bullet point 2. Welcome back to Friendly Argument.
Hello.
In bureaucratic government bullying of U.S. citizens and small businesses. I want to know the details of what they're actually meaning in that, but on its face, I'm okay with. Like, I don't think bureaucrats should be the ones who make all the decisions / write the laws.
I see see my comment on the percentages of how bureaucratically I felt bullied while dealing with an unbelievably,
I feel like
liberal
this
government.
would probably be a case-by-case basis, and I'm sure there's arguments both ways, and I should have let you in on that one.
Yeah.
Anyway. Expose Washington's money trail and delegate powers back to people and states. I don't know what that means.
Expose Washington's money trail. That part to me sounds
I'm okay
like
with
campaign
that.
finance
Okay,
stuff.
I'm fine
which
with that.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Delegate powers back to the people and states.
On its face, I'm also okay with that because I feel like the bigger government should be the more local governments. Local governments should have more power than federal governments or state governments. States should have more power than federal governments because in America you should be able, as long as you're still able to be like able to move. So it's like if I don't like how Kansas is running things, or if I don't like how one county in Kansas is running things, I should be able to pack up and move to the next county over where I do. Or if I don't like how Kansas is running things, I should be able to move to California and vice versa. And if that's the case, then yeah, let's let as many experiments happen as possible, and people will go where that makes the most sense.
Yeah, we've touched on something similar to this, where I think the federal level should have the broadest out of bounds, and then within that field of play, you have your state and municipal experiments, and for the most part, I'm okay with that. I just there's some situations where. I feel that the federal government can duck out of responsibility with those things, and I think that's
I grant. I feel like the caveat for all of these are going to be like I want to see the details, but like on its face, yes, no. Drain the globalist swamp by taking on international organizations that hurt American citizens. Again, on its face, I'm okay with that because I don't like. My example would be like the World Health Organization is pretty much trying to control. It seems like it controls most of it, even though we fund it.
That set of words is so broad, it is almost of no use.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Defend our police.
Fully fund and hire more police and law enforcement officers. I don't know that this is a federal issue so much as it is a local issue.
Yeah, So we've talked about this a little bit, and I think we'll talk about it more in the future. I would like to, however that funding pie is for our policing or public safety or whatever you want to call that, I would just, I don't. We can play with the numbers. I don't really care what that X is, but I do think that there's better ways to do it that I think the police, boots on the ground would appreciate, that the
local community would
appreciate and the leadership would appreciate, and mostly like situations where we don't need like a paramilitary response. And I think it's most of the time.
I agree that. Whereas like I think the Second Amendment says like I think we should have well-formed militias on the local level to a certain extent, which is a can of worms we'll open at some other point. But at the same time, I don't feel comfortable with the police buying old military equipment. Like Podunk County, Texas doesn't need to have an armed personnel carrier. No.
So we'll move on. We'll
just keep on. Yeah, increase criminal penalties for assaults on law enforcement officers. I'm good with this solely because it falls in lines with what I think the social contract is. But again, I think I would want to see what the details are on that. I think this is more of the Democratic Party is going more towards the like BLM defund the police thing, and I think this might be more of a political statement than it is an actual like policy statement.
Agreed. Physical violence carrying a heavy penalty, I think is right.
Yeah. And I think that goes the other. I think that should go both ways. Like, if we can prove like, hey, this cop just literally beat the shit out of this person who was legitimately protesting, then yeah, that cop should go to jail for a substantial amount of time. But if it's like, hey, this person was getting in the cop, like, there's a police line, and this person is getting in the cop's face, like, and then punches the officer, like, yeah, no, that's, you're not punching the officer in that moment, you're punching everyone. You're punching with a social contract. And I think that should be fairly stiff. But I want you to let you end.
There are things I would change on both sides of that protest line.
Yeah. Prosecute...
Too many to go into this moment.
Well, I mean, all of these are huge.
Yeah.
Prosecute drive-by shootings as acts of domestic terrorism. I want to know more, but on its face, I'm kind of okay with. I don't know what this is, where this is coming. Like, this seems weird, but again, like, on its face, like, I'm okay with, because it is a, I have shot you, I am running away, fleeing the scene. Because it's such a concise moment. It is almost an act, because you can't control that, right? If someone's walking up to you with a gun, that is more controllable, or you have more responses than if someone just drives by, 3 people unload their clips, and then they drive off. Like, drive up, unload your clip, and drive off. But I don't know where this is, like, what the impetus is for this.
So far, most of this defend our police thing, it seems to be going with severity of punishment.
Yeah.
And I'm talking high school political theory class. Severity of punishment doesn't stop crime. Certainty of punishment does. And so I think
I can agree with that.
I mean, it's pretty simple on its face, but it's also proven. Like, and so a lot of this, like, the severity of punishment stuff, it doesn't speak to what I think what they're really trying to do.
Okay. Like I said, bring violent extremist groups like Antifa to justice. I want to know the details, but again, on his face, I'm super into this. But I also, as stated on this podcast, have personal experience with this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. It politicizes it by just those 2 words. You could just easily said, bring violent extremist groups to justice.
Yeah.
And who's going to be...
I guess it's... I would maybe change that to, I would bring black bloc tactics groups to justice. Or violent black bloc tactics groups.
Black bloc?
Black bloc it was very popular in Europe for decades, and has moved over, and is one of the hallmarks of Antifa. And basically a black bloc is... everybody shows up to protest, and you wear all black clothing and black masks, and preferably some kind of goggles. So it's like, that guy right there looks kind of similar to that other person right there. So so you have 10 people, one person's violent, right? But that one person can meld out of the crowd, commit violence, and meld back into the crowd. And because they're all wearing the same stuff, you're all anonymous. So it's like, you can't ever hold an individual responsible for extreme actions, because you can never tell them apart from the crowd. So if you look at, like, a lot of the riots in Portland and Seattle, and, like, most of the riots that have been happening recently, you'll notice that everyone is in black bloc. So it's just a block of people dressed in black.
Got it. Yeah.
Which is a hallmark of particularly left violent extremists.
Yeah.
Right people generally are like, nah, fuck it, you can arrest me. But...
Right.
Which is maybe not healthy either, but...
Yeah, for the most part, I stand behind what I do. And so, the whole live your life as if it's going to be on the front page of the paper kind of thing. I think that we should bring violent extremist groups in the United States to justice.
Yeah. I think that unless it is this might be a different topic. I think that because it's one of those, becomes a Second Amendment issue to a certain extent, or even American independence issue to a certain extent. So it's like, if you believe to so much that this is an oppressive government, you have the right to rebel, but that also doesn't mean that it's that a weird tension between duties.
Sure,
I feel
that
like
exists.
I feel like I've issued a general statement that is kind of not great without unpacking it a lot, which I regret to a certain extent, but only because we're not in a format where we can unpack that. So
You chose this format.
I did. It's on me. I'm not super upset about it, but
I'm here too. I tried to. I'm trying.
Yeah. In cashless bail and keep dangerous criminals locked up until trial.
There's basically the definition of dangerous.
Yeah.
Is I think the
I guess
issue there.
I just feel like there's a certain bit. I don't know how I feel because I think that there is a habeas corpus argument here where the government doesn't have the right to keep you, but there's also a public safety issue where it's like, if like, hey, you just shot 8 people in cold blood, we're not gonna there's no reason to believe that you're not just going to go out and do it while we're waiting.
Yeah, and so, but that would be an obvious situation where cashless bail would not be an option. Like that would be a very high level cash bail. I think I don't know exactly what they're talking about. I think they're talking about so there's been a couple times in history, particularly in Britain, like you would have to pay the other person's if you filed suit against somebody you had and you lost, you had to pay their court bills.
Yeah.
And they ended that here when they brought common law over to the United States, so that it wasn't just rich people could just bully ball the system. And so I feel like there might be some issue like that going on.
Yeah.
So we would need to unpack it.
Yeah.
But without having that time, we will move on.
Because we have
7 minutes and change.
Okay, yeah. All right. End illegal immigration and protect American workers. So block illegal immigrants from becoming eligible for tax-funded welfare, health care, and free college tuition. I mean, on its face, I don't have a problem with that.
There are some... Immigration should really be a whole podcast, a whole episode.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that the way we're doing it now needs a change. And we can touch on that more.
Yeah, I think that's probably the better way to do it. Mandatory deportation for non-citizen gang members. I don't know how I feel about this one, because part of me thinks it's better just to have them in our jails if they're clear gang members, because then we control it, but at the same time I don't feel like the U.S. taxpayer should be burdened with another country's gang member. So I don't know how I necessarily feel about this
it's
one.
a messy...
Yeah.
It's a messy situation.
Yeah.
And our current immigration policies are allowing this. And so what I think we're touching on, like with the healthcare and with the immigration, we're particularly hitting areas where there's no popular solutions, and we're just going to have to...
Somebody's going to have to bite the political bullet.
Yeah, and
to make it work.
But we, as an electorate, we need... We need to change the tribalism so that we can have an electorate that allows for celebrating the leaders that make the tough decisions. And there's going to be winners and losers, and it's going to be unpopular, net, long term, plus. Yeah. Even if it's ugly.
I think we'll agree on this one. Dismantle human trafficking networks.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think would actually, and this will probably...
As long as they're not there's some QAnon little thing in there.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, there could be a QAnon thing in there if it was real, but let's be honest, the amount of, there's... Every conspiracy theory has, at least a tiny germ of truth, but it's usually blown up to, this is how reality is, and it's no. So the only thing there is, I think that the unpopular thing, and I realize I'm dropping a bomb here, but the unpopular thing is here, the U.S. porn industry would probably take a huge hit, if that was an actual thing.
I am totally fine with the porn industry taking it. I'm okay with a lot of big industries taking it. I think they'll figure out a way.
Yeah. in sanctuary cities to restore our neighborhoods and protect our families. I want more details, but I think I am more on the side of yes than no on this one. I don't think that federal laws get to be trumped by local laws to an extent. Like I think that's maybe, in line with maybe what you're saying. It is, because I think that the federal laws need to be very broad brush strokes and small, and local people can fit within that. But because they're broad brush and small, they can't be trumped by locals. Like you can't have a county that's like, we're going to just reinstitute slavery. That's now a thing again. Right. Like that's the federal gets to trump that.
Yep. I think if you put in common sense federal immigration policy, sanctuary cities are kind of a moot point.
Yeah. Prohibit American companies from replacing United States citizens with lower cost foreign workers. I disagree. Like, I realize, like, there is some I'm generally not a huge globalist fan.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't see any... I think that it is better for because so let me try it this way. As a Christian, at the end of the day, I am always for humans. I'm a Christian first before I am anything else. So that being said, because every human being has the image of God in them, I have to be more humans than I am Americans, even though I will care more. Even though, like, as an American, I will care more for Americans than I will other. Like, my responsibility is for Americans before other types of humans, right? Because it's where God put me. That being said, if there's I can increase human thriving more than American, and it hurts American thriving, I'm still morally obligated to choose human thriving.
Sure.
Like, that may not be the most concise way to state a fairly nuanced position.
No, I follow.
Yeah. So a lot of third world countries, like when you get put in like what we consider to be a sweatshop, it's a net benefit to that community. Which is maybe another, like, that's a statement that needs unpacking. But
I want better things for people over the companies.
Yeah.
Very broad.
You would agree with prohibiting? Yeah. Would you agree to prohibit, like, companies from being like, we can create this widget better in Madagascar than we can here in the U.S., so we're going to move the factory to Madagascar?
I have some, I guess I would want to know the details because I do have a couple nuanced questions about that.
Yeah.
But net, I don't know. I can't even say net. Yeah. Sorry. It did give me a fun idea though. I would like at some point to do a T-shirt bet between us. So where, like, maybe on the election, then if Biden wins, you'll have to wear a T-shirt that you don't want to wear, and if Trump wins, I have to wear a T-shirt that I don't want to wear for one episode.
I feel on an episode, that's fine. Like, it's like if we had to wear it day to day in LA, like, it's like that could be potentially dangerous for you and not a big deal for me.
Yeah, I would just say I lost the bet. I mean,
I don't know. I think you could potentially get shot if I made you wear a Trump shirt.
Oh, I don't think that's true. But we're gonna take a quick break.
Oh yeah, we're at that
point to get a restart here, and then I think we got how many more? 3 bullet points.
3 headers.
3 headers.
Like, call it 10 bullet points.
All right. Yep. We'll be back with the end of the Trump campaign agenda.
Oh, I just read a little bit in the front. Oh, well, this will be an interesting one.
Okay.
So last one for welcome back.
Hi everybody.
So the last one on the Trump agenda list under the heading "End illegal immigration and protect American workers" is require new immigrants to be able to support themselves financially. I am in general supportive of this if there's some caveat for like a time frame. right? Because like you move somewhere else that is like, okay, this may not necessarily be the best thing, but it's like I don't want, like, if the best doctor in India is like, I want to move to the U.S. and he goes, like, they go through all of the paperwork and they move to the U.S. I'm not going to be like, and like whatever, for whatever reason, like they're the best new thing, so they just out of med school, brightest star in India, but they don't have any money, they've got a lot of debt, but they've moved here. Like, yeah, I don't want to say, no, you can't support yourself financially right now.
Yeah.
You can't come in. Like, I shouldn't want this, but I want to talent drain the rest of the world so that we're all in America.
Yeah. And
it's not an actually good for humanity idea, but it's like my general thought.
Yeah, on average, I want as much talent on my sideline as possible.
Yeah.
And overall, I guess with the immigration policy, I think Lee Kuan Yew, the first Prime Minister of Singapore, put together a really an immigration policy that made Singapore very attractive to the people that they wanted to be attractive to.
Yeah.
I would popular or unpopular, I would
You do that. All right.
probably borrow as much of that
I'll
as,
have to
without knowing all the
point.
it being having to go through
All
all
right.
the exact details.
Innovate for the future.
All right.
Launch Space Force. Establish permanent man presence on the moon and send first man mission to Mars. I want to know what we mean by Space Force, because, like...
I feel like he lays out what...
No, because there's a comma there. It's a separate thing.
Okay.
Space Force, and he's already technically established Space Force. Like, I get, like, there is... Like, satellites are going to be more and more part of warfare. So, like, yes, there is... I think that probably should be more of a jurisdiction of the Air Force, but... I understand if we need a new branch, whatever. I don't know enough about the subject to have an informed opinion. They established the permanent man presence on the moon. I want to know the usefulness. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's a giant hunk of rock that we need for our tidal systems. But I don't know, like, what the scientific or resource... Like, we can't harvest the moon. Like, I think, and not, like... kind of fuck up things down here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, like, I'm okay going back to the moon. Like, if for no other reason, you'd be like, yes, we can still do this. But I don't understand, like, a permanent, like, why do we need an international space station on the moon?
It rings so caricature-y, and most of his policies, and I'm trying to say this in the nicest way possible, seem very reestablishing previous strengths of the country that
we may not necessarily need to do anymore.
It seems it's like if this was a melody, if this was a song, this note seems to be in a different key.
Gotcha.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
That and sorry, the music part of my brain kind of took over there, but
no
this seems a little.
So the first two, I have lots of questions on. Send first man.
I love building the world's greatest infrastructure.
Oh, well, we're not there yet.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you were saying the first two. I thought
the first two of that sentence.
Got it.
I'm actually very okay with sending a man mission to Mars, because again, it's frontierism. Like,
sure,
if we can do that, then maybe we can get to the point where we can start.
The Gen Zers seem to be totes into
then
it.
maybe we can terraform Mars. Like, maybe we can be a 2-planet species.
And
like, I see no problem. Like, even as a Christian, like, I see no problem with that. Yeah.
If it gets those kids like laser focused on STEM,
like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's start harvesting the Kuiper Belt. Like, the amount of resources out there, like,
who knows? Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, if we can figure out how to make it economic, we have infinite resources in our galaxy alone, let alone the universe.
We need water. And we have more of that than any place else. I would like to think about.
But we can, like, it's out there in the Kuiper Belt too. Like, everything we need's out there. It's just a matter of getting it here or figuring out how we can live out there.
Yeah, we need water.
No, what we need is a way to desalinize water. We actually have enough.
Yeah,
water
that's true. That's true.
Like, we don't
I've
actually
need
desalinization.
Actually,
we don't actually need H2O. We just need to figure out how to way to take all this shit out of our H2O in a efficient fashion. Build the world's greatest infrastructure system. I'm fine with that. I don't know what the mix of private versus public is on that, but I don't think that's...
I almost don't even mind. Carnegie. Got super wealthy, took some big risks, huge price tags.
Yeah.
Like the biggest price tags in the history at the time. But it was a net plus.
Yeah.
It was because it was 100 years later, and it helped.
Yeah.
And so yes.
Yeah, and I mean like our infrastructure, like all of it, like, and this I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I think I've talked about food reincarnated with you.
Yes.
And part of my research into that was reading about sewer systems in like the great cities. So London's screwed in the next 25 years. Like their sewer system is going to fail. New York is screwed in the next 15 to 20, I think. LA is screwed in the next 30. Like, it's just like we don't have like the way we do. The fact that we spend so much time and energy cleaning what is effectively already clean water is just ridiculous.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about it.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah. Win the race to 5G and establish a national high-speed wireless and internet network. Again, don't know that this is necessarily the government's job, but I'm okay with that if that's like America.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like a lot of this stuff seems just so important. Yes, you know what I mean. Like I don't even like the winners and losers. Like the net winners are just so big over that next 100 years. Like yes, and I don't know if. I feel like the race to 5G has already been won.
I think it's more... I think it might be international 5G because China's really trying to get that. Like, they're offering a lot of younger, like, littler countries, like...
Great deals.
We'll say, hey, we'll come in and basically build this for you, but we're going to own it.
Yeah.
And so it's basically like, all right, well, now China can read the... Well, I'm not even going to say paranoid. It's... When they do that, it's like they can read everything.
Yeah.
Well, and even like so, like we'll just pretend like I don't know if this is true or not, but like say China built Indonesia's 5G network. China basically owns all of Indonesia's like data, which is kind of everything right now, and might be everything for the next 50 years. So like that's a huge thing. Like roads may not matter so much as like your wireless system.
I agree.
Yeah. Continue to lead the world in access to cleanest drinking water and cleanest air. Yeah, as long as it trickles down to everybody else, particularly. If we can be like, hey, here's a cheap way to do this. We've already spent all the R&D. Have fun.
This section is very forward-thinking and...
partner with other nations to clean up our planet's oceans. Yep. I was actually I'm reading...
My only thing is, again, this whole section just seems to be in a different key than what I've seen over his tenure as president.
Well, so I think this is where one of those like there's a difference in perception and reality.
That would be great. If we are moving towards the cleanest drinking water and cleanest air.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we do actually already have that. Because of my point in cases, so we got out of the Paris Accords, right? And if my understanding,
so you see, you understand where I'm getting.
Yeah, I understand that. But so the only nation to live up to the Paris Accords last year was the U.S., and we weren't even in it. Everybody else failed miserably, particularly India and China. Like, we're like, no, we're not going to be beholden to this, but we already like surpassed what we were supposed to do.
Interesting.
Like if even as an anecdotal example, like LA in the 80s, like smog was a real thing, right? Like it was like, how bad is it today? Today, like you might notice the smog if you're out in Santa Barbara because all of the smog gets like pushed up that way, like all of the stuff. But like you and I, like we're not going to be like, well, what's the haze like today? Because it's a beautiful, like almost every day is a cloudless, clear blue sky.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see how much of the hills I can see down my street here is I see it. I definitely see it. Yeah. We have more rain now than the first time that I lived in Los Angeles, and over the first 8 years that I lived in Los Angeles, there might have been 2 days of rain each year. I mean, it was.
I wonder how much of that is drought
dry.
versus global warming, and I think there's a micro macro issue, like things I would like to explore at a different point.
All contributors, I think, is the word that we've used.
Yes,
and the but this, I think, because there was no rain to knock it out of the air. Like I remember it being much more noticeable then.
Well, but
than
I mean,
now.
but cars are also like people buy cleaner cars now. Like almost every car in the '80s is like putting out what the equivalent of, like, I'm gonna make up a number here, but like 10 cars from today.
Sure, and that's why I sort of to sort of move us past the '80s. I moved here in 2005.
Yeah,
and then lived here for almost 8 years. And now I'm here. It's 2020. So there is a difference, and it was particularly tougher then.
Yeah.
But I think there might have been some other contributing factors. That's
potential.
What I was getting at.
Yeah. Partner with other nations to clean up our planet's oceans. I agree with this, and I'm gonna, before you give your comment, I'm reading a book called Apocalypse Never by a I don't remember what he is, but he's one of those guys who's like you would expect to be on the climate crisis side of it, and he's like the world's biggest hippie. Like his whole life is dedicated to like all of the like Greenpeace movements.
Yeah, and overall I'm anti-hippie.
Yeah,
I do surf.
But I mean, like I say hippie, but
there might be people.
But the guys like CV is like you would expect him. to be like right there with Bill Nye saying like, everyone who has a carbon emission of whatever needs to be put in a gulag. I don't remember the exact quote, but
I understand.
You expect him to say that, and he's basically like, here's all the stats, and he's like, basically 90% of the plastics in the ocean are coming from countries that have shitty like waste management things.
Okay.
So America is like 0.001% of the plastic waste in there. So like I'm actually okay with partnering with other nations. Yeah. And again, this is part of the I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but I've talked about it with you with Food Reincarnated, where it's like make waste like happen in a more waste management happen in a more organic function. So.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Okay. American first foreign policy.
America first.
America first.
It's so silly I even brought it up.
You were correct to check me though. Stop endless wars and bring our troops home. I want to know the details on that.
Sounds like Al Gore to me.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's like this would probably be a good other podcast. Like, is America's role world cop, or is it just being the biggest guy on the block and we only protect our interests?
I propose to sort of borrow your. I want to be the good big brother.
Yeah.
I want to be the big brother you want.
Do we as the American people, as part of our duty, that we just understand that we are going to spend more blood and treasure making other people's lives more stable? And how do we morally and practically do that? And
if you apply your Christian humanist view to that, I think you. Oh, you're saying how much do you spend?
Like where do you do that? Where's the limit? Because there's a concept, and I think it's been lost in our culture, and I think even within the church it's kind of been lost. But there's the concept of meekness, right? And so when you hear meek, you usually think of somebody who's like kind of scrawny and like you don't think
the negative connotation.
You don't think of it as a powerful person, but that's not what meekness actually means. Meekness is power controlled. So it is the sword not drawn is what meekness is.
I like that.
And so it's not that like I'm going to choose to use my power all the time. I'm only going to choose to use my power when it is for the right cause. Like I don't control my power. Righteousness controls my power. So it's not even like I still need to seek power. If I have the ability to accumulate power in righteous modes, I ought to do that. Because then I am supposed to be the steward of that power.
In righteous modes.
Yes. And that's like, and then, again, welcome to Christianity. It's all about righteousness.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can't attain it.
Ouch.
So it's like, what is America's role being a meek nation?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Get allies to pay their fair share. Yeah. NATO, like, we shouldn't fund everything. We have the economy to do it, but that won't last them. Like,
Deck chairs,
Yeah.
in my view.
Okay, fair. Maintain and expand America's unrivaled military strength. I don't have a problem with that. But...
Yeah, I don't know if we need to expand. I mean, we have what, like, is it 60,000? We have 60,000 nuclear warheads and like.
I don't think we have that many anymore. I think that's Cold War numbers, but yeah,
maybe. But like ours is
it's
6 times 5. It's significantly more. I mean, I think if we right size it, you know what I mean. But because this is another one, could not be more pro military. There's a dichotomy. Some good ideas can go too far.
Yeah.
We don't need an endless.
Yes, I think
infinite. We don't need an infinite military.
I think we could agree that there needs to be and we'd argue where this line would be, but a reasonable expansion of military, so that we're always like not even a step or two ahead, like we're significantly ahead of our next geopolitical rival militarily function. Like I don't think we should ever give up military hegemony. I think that is a thing that, as U.S. citizens, that is a place where we ought to spend blood and treasure. Because I look around at other nations and I'm like, I don't trust those assholes. We
might come to similar ends.
Yeah. It's like if the current United Kingdom, like I trust them a little bit more than like North Korea. Sort of thing. Like there's a scale there, but like I think overall, like right now, like if we're looking at just straight up morality, like what is the best human good, then I would say like I think Americanism is the best system. It's not perfect. It's a toothless whore, but it's a lot prettier than everything else out there.
Okay.
I don't. That's not an aneurysm. I forget whose quote that is, but
no. I think that I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a lot of Andrew comments and Jeremy, like, is.
Well, we're reading the Trump campaign agenda.
That's
so
fair.
I think, you know.
Yeah. What about global terrorists who threaten to harm Americans? Well, I like that it's terrorists and not terrorism.
Okay.
I want to know what... I think that there needs to be a limiting factor in there somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Like, I shouldn't be carte blanche that, but again, this is a very bullet pointy thing.
Yeah.
So, like, I want to know what's the details. Like, do we need to go hunt out every cell in, like, Paris that's like, death to America, but it's really just, like, you know, a bunch of 14-year-olds who have nothing better to do? Or is this, like, you know, like, where's our line here?
Yeah.
Like, if there's another Osama bin Laden, like, you had the funding and were successful enough to actually, like, hurt us, I think we need to, like, root that out, root and branch. But, yeah.
I think it's... The use of the word global there is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the numbers of domestic terrorists and deaths related to domestic terrorists. So, to me, it could be... I
want to know our definition of domestic terrorists, but I'm not actually unpack that. I'm just
sure.
I'd be curious.
So, I could very easily take that and make it wipe out terrorists who threaten Americans,
which is bad because there's no limiting factor. Like, there's no limiting factor on the global part of it.
Well,
but like, taking out terrorists, like, I'm always concerned because it's who gets to define what a terrorist is.
Yeah.
And the moment that gets opened up to whoever is in charge of the government says it is, then all of a sudden it's like everyone who's not in line is a terrorist. Does that make sense?
Right. I think currently we are several degrees away from, police states around the world. I think Egypt was under a police, military law for 30 years. So
Hezbollah's in like year 16 of a 4-year term or something.
Right, exactly. So I think we're a ways from that. Even at our crappiest, we have had a lot of peaceful transfers of power. So I think you know, I don't mind the broader. I just think the focus out with global is an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess like part of me, and I'm not necessarily defending this, but a part of me like is hesitant to always be like root out domestic terrorists, because then there's a lot more gray area between, well, who's actually we're talking about citizens. And it's like, well, who gets to define what's a terrorist there? And like one person's like, clearly violence is violence and needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
But like one person's radical speech may be somebody else's like, well, I mean, he's like, you're just saying like, and like you technically,
I feel like
be
that
called
is spilling over more.
Yeah, because like technically,
Today
some
than
people, even here in LA, might consider me a terrorist just because I hold fairly conservative, traditional Christian views. It's an extreme example, but I mean, like,
right.
Like, but my point is like anyone can technically be labeled a terrorist without a limiting principle.
If you, I would say if you have like the same way like the police come up with like murder cases, like means, opportunity, and like those are, so if we can, you know, look at what these groups on the internet are talking about, do they have the means and the opportunity, and they're talking about doing it, different
thing.
That's fair. I don't think you're doing that, and I don't think you're Christian.
Well, no, granted. Well, there's probably some very French ones that are doing that, but they're mostly in Idaho. So
then we should probably address those. Yes, but you know,
I have no idea if in Idaho.
Well, I trust you.
Yeah,
I trust you.
Granted, but I mean, I think we're getting into an apropos of not this, but build a great cybersecurity defense system and missile defense system. The latter I don't have a problem with. I don't know what the cybersecurity. I don't know what that actually means in real life. So I'm gonna just be like,
I think a lot of nations want to steal our information, steal our data, and they're doing it in unprecedented numbers.
Yeah.
Particularly China. This is not news.
Because our intellectual property is like intellectual property is what the currency is now.
I think that is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So I don't mind.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that. Just let me make a better example.
Yeah, sure.
If in the great age of sail, if gold was the thing everyone needed, like that was the more you had, the stronger you were.
Sure.
Intellectual property is what that is today.
Yeah, and what in the Bible it was like head of cattle.
Yeah,
and like
it's livestock. Yes.
Livestock, yeah. So there you go.
They diversified.
Hey.
Yeah. Okay, so header: defend American values. Continue nominating constitutionalist Supreme Court and lower court judges. I'm very okay with this because I don't think the Supreme Court's job is to reinterpret law. It is to say this is to interpret fact patterns based off of what the intention of the law was. Yeah,
I support new amendments to the Constitution.
That's fine, but it should come through the legislature, not through the Supreme Court.
But I on average, the constitutionalist group is a group that I disagree with their interpretation.
I'm sure. I'm not super surprised by that. But yeah. All right. Protect the unborn life through every means available. I think that is too strongly worded, and again, doesn't have a limiting factor. Because, whereas I won't ever make in cases of incest and rape argument, but I think that, and I've actually told my fiance this, that if she gets pregnant and for whatever reason there's a complication and it comes down to her or the kid, she's the one we save.
And I think that,
which would fall,
a lot of people would agree with you.
Yeah, that would go counter to that, so which is why I don't like that statement.
I would agree with your statement.
Okay. Defend the freedoms of religious believers and organizations. I think that is a fundamental aspect of the American system, and I would include in that ideologies that I find highly offensive as a Christian. So what I think I have referred to on this podcast as the most successful Christian heresies. Islam and Mormons.
Oh,
They have the right. They have the right to be American just as much as I do. As long as like those close-handed American principles are there, then at the end of the day, like we can discuss and talk about God between ourselves as much as possible. As long as at the end of the day, American Muslims are still going to be Americans, and as long as Christian Americans are still going to be Americans. Like that's, yeah.
I think I agree with what you're saying, and as far as I think religious believers and organizations for a country that believes in separation of church and state, the freedoms of those groups have to be about greater here than any other place in the world.
Yeah.
So
we are going to have to at some point unpack the the separation of
separation
church and
state.
Yeah, because it's not a legal doctrine, but. We've opened a lot of like, hey, we need to talk about these at other points.
This is good.
Support the exercise of Second Amendment rights. I agree. I think that there also needs to be, in addition to that, I think there also needs to be a more education on why we have these rights. I would be so extreme as to like we're too big to make this feasible. But in an idealistic world, I would have us be like Sweden or not Sweden, Switzerland, or I don't think it's Israel. I'll just say Switzerland, where it's like if you are between like, I think it's if you're a male between 18 and 36, you have to own and maintain a gun and go to X amount of shooting stuff.
Yeah.
If you want my gun, come spank me for it. Not like too hard, but like still hard, you know? Like hurt me, but make me feel safe.
Yeah.
Because I think that, well, this is the Second Amendment is probably a whole other podcast that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I do think that enough has changed with firearms between the writing of the Second Amendment and today that it might be time to readdress.
Okay. That is fair, and I will not address your statement until we do a Second Amendment podcast, as much as I am tempted to do so.
I'm just jotting down that we need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
I mean, I in trying to find common ground, I think we made it through.
We've made it through.
Amicably.
Amicably, yes. We made it through amicably.
And stating our viewpoints, you know what I mean, and trying to find those common ground.
Well, it looks like we've got about a minute left, so I think this is probably a good time to wrap it up.
We did it. We did it.
We had Jeremy, we had a political conversations. We were friends before. I think we were friends during. I'm pretty sure mine is mostly water.
Same.
Yeah. And we were be friends after.
Cheers.